He's been itching to tell his side of the story. Suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is emphatic to parliamentarians that there was no sinister ulterior motive in disbanding the political killings task team and that the unit was under review for quite a while.
His argument is that the type of resources they use for the political killings task team should be used for gangs in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, etc. And that it's something he's actually hammering on. Is this the discrepancy between you have the specialized unit for politicians, while ordinary people don't get that. Quite a compelling argument, actually, because why should politicians get special treatment? That's the nub of the question, really.
Catch the very latest from Mchunu's evidence before MPs with our senior parliamentary correspondent Jan Gerber next. Later, the road to Springbok glory was difficult, with On This Day in South African History at the end of today's show. Just a reminder that if you'd like to advertise on The Lead after reaching nearly 720,000 listens since March this year, you can drop us a mail at thelead@24.com. If you'd like to fast forward to the absolute latest from the testimony in Parliament this evening, you can go to the 19-minute mark in this very show. Well, my name's Graeme Raubenheimer, this is The Lead, and this is the South African story. Moving to our top story today, is the now suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu corrupt and complicit in shielding cartel criminals by ordering the disbandment of the political killings task team? Well, that's certainly the key question some opposition MPs may be looking to ask now that Mchunu, who's been on gardening leave, is in the hot seat this week at Parliament's ad hoc committee. Well, the committee is hearing evidence parallel to the Madlanga Commission, tasked with investigating claims that criminals have captured the country's criminal justice system. Well, our senior parliamentary correspondent, Jan Gerber, is our man with his finger on the pulse. He's live with me now in our Cape Town studios. How's it, Jan?
How's it?
Yeah, not an awful lot to say thus far about Mchunu's testimonials. He's, again, like many of the other key witnesses we've heard thus far, just laying the groundwork in terms of the operational sides of things and how much power his ministry has in the central issue here, which has been the establishment of the political killings task team, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, the evidence leader, Norman Arendse, pointed to a spelling mistake in his affidavit. He said he started dull time politics in 1991. And unfortunately, so far this morning, it has been dull time politics. But what he's trying to establish, I think, at the moment is to assert that he had the right to disband the PKTT, the political killings task team, and that he acted within his rights. So far, nothing explosive yet. I think it will be coming. He is scheduled to be taken through his affidavit this afternoon by the evidence leader and tomorrow as well. And then next week the MPs will get hold of him. I suspect that will go crazy. But
Norman Arendse may ask probing questions along the way, of course, and try and figure out exactly what the thinking was around the extension of the PKTT.
Yeah.
And we've already heard from Mchunu saying that there's a difference between extending the lifespan and asking for more funding. And they've sort of been very sort of a little bit more detailed in that regard.
Yeah, that has been the main point of his evidence so far, I think. So what he's going to say, what he's said just before we broke, is that it wasn't, in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, to extend this, or to keep giving this task team funding without actually assessing whether it is still needed, because other structures has been implemented, in the meantime.
Sure, but it's definitely been dull time politics, and of course the disbandment letter that was issued in December 2024 is definitely going to be a focal point of what Norman Arendse will lead in terms of evidence and what Mchunu's thinking was around that time, and that's hopefully going to come up before the end of tonight.
Yes, well, I hope so. Well, hopefully it's an earlier night because this committee has been keeping me up very late. But in any case, so most of Mchunu's testimony, I believe, will center around that letter. Who knew about it? Did the president knew about it? Did Masemola knew about it?
Who drafted it? That sort of thing.
Oh yeah, Mkhwanazi made a big thing about him not believing that Mchunu drafted that letter himself,
and that he just affixed his signature, and that was that. Yeah.
So we'll I think there'll be a lot of testimony coming that contradicts or that seeks to contradict Mkonazi from Mchunu. Also, a key point that Mchunu raised this morning was that he's going to prove during his testimony that Masemola didn't present all the information about the political killings task team to the committee.
Yes, that he was withholding certain facets.
Yes. He's still withholding what information Masemola was withholding, but I'm sure it will come in the afternoon.
Yeah, sure. And just a key note for our lead listeners, Jan and I will hopefully find a gap sometime in the afternoon before the show goes out at 7 to update you in the second half of the show as to some of the more pertinent things that Mchunu is going to be raising. But we just want to catch you up with some of the various developments that have been happening in Parliament this week. You might have been a bit confused if you're, a casual newsie in terms of what was happening within the various committees over the last 24 hours. There was a normal police portfolio committee hearing happening. Take us through what that specifically was about, Jan. This was to take a little bit more of a discerning look at a recent Auditor General findings report in relation to the 363 million rand health services tender that Vusimusi Katmaklala had bagged with the SAPS, although later cancelled once that had emerged. The Auditor General's office has essentially come along and basically said there were many procurement red flags here, affirming already News 24 investigations into that, right?
Yes, and the police own investigation. But that's just one aspect of that Auditor General's report. Every year, the Auditor General, as part of the department's annual statements, present the audit report. And like this type of committee meeting happens every year of every department, where MPs would go through what the AG tells them went wrong in this department and seeking explanations from the accounting officer and from the minister. So that was supposed to happen yesterday, because when the committee convened yesterday morning, the minister, acting minister Firoz Kachalia and Masemola, the National Commissioner, didn't pitch. Obviously, the MPs were not impressed, because we got a question about what went wrong. So the committee chairperson, Jan Gerber, who's also a member of the ad hoc committee, he basically went through some of the findings that the AG made against the police. It's pretty grim reading. And given everything that's going on in the country with police, I mean, we've been spilling their guts for the past few weeks.
Yeah.
And the minister and the National Commissioner just doesn't rock up.
Yeah.
So the minister will say, well, he had to be in cabinet, but he's also supposed to account to Parliament.
Yeah. Cameron wasn't happy about that.
He was, not only him, the whole committee. I mean, across party lines.
Sure.
But Cameron specifically was not happy about that. So it is something that, it comes a long way. Like when the ANC was still firmly in control of Parliament, it was just like, okay, cool. They just were very...
willy-nilly, they come and go.
Like they were very deferential to the executive. So they let the ministers do as they please. So obviously now we have a situation where Cameron's from the DA. He doesn't care about the ANC's own internal hierarchies and stuff.
Yeah, doesn't really care too much about cabinet. He feels from a parliamentary perspective, he doesn't have to answer to that. Yeah,
and I think he's completely correct. Ministers are supposed to account to Parliament.
Right.
Also, there's typically not committee meetings on Mondays and Thursday mornings. So why the Cabinet insists on meeting on Wednesdays?
Yeah. One of those big issues about the SAPS budget is, of course, the 2.5 billion rand glaring irregular spending that's been racked up in recent years.
Over years. I'm not sure. I haven't, because they didn't present the report, I'm not familiar with all the specific details.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of money. And every year, when it's time for the budget, you're going to hear there's not enough money for this, there's always enough money for VIP protection. But for the other stuff, not so much. And also, the irregular expenditure increased over the past year. I can't recall the exact numbers now, but by 140%.
Sure.
That's just mental, So, if I were the officer in charge of that, I would also stay away from the meeting, because how do you explain that?
Yeah, Jean Redpath, she's a UWC senior researcher. I interviewed her on Monday this week. It feels like a lifetime ago just because of the news cycle. And she was indicating in regards to that 2.5 billion rand, Jan, she was basically saying that's down to, too many generals, spending that's not been accounted for, and that's on a provincial basis. And that already speaks to what Mkhwanazi himself said before, I think it was before Parliament and not the Madlanga Commission, but he basically felt like the SAPS has too many chiefs and there's too few Indians.
That's something I would agree with him. Also something that's come a long way. And that's also why you have this internal competition, because there's too many generals, so they all want to be the big general.
The top boss.
The boss of bosses. And also they all want the budget to spend, because otherwise why are you there?
Yeah. What was Masamola's reasoning as to why he couldn't be in the Police Portfolio Committee yesterday?
We don't know. He didn't provide a reason to Cameron, and the Deputy Minister, Kasal Matale, who was there, he said, if the Commissioner is not well, he's not well. Nothing we can do about it.
And then Cameron said, I think Cameron indicated, there's no indication as to whether or not he's actually ill. So why are you saying that?
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
okay.
It's not a good look. Not given what has been going on in the policing sphere this past 3 months now.
Yeah. Okay. There was also now, not to confuse our listeners, the ad hoc committee, which is currently hearing Mchunu's evidence. They met, and this is the committee with Julius Malema and a lot of other more well-known MPs in that particular arena. This was the planning, effectively. They held a quick meeting yesterday evening to try and figure out what they're going to be doing next. Who's going to be called? How many people are going to be called? Who makes the list?
That started at 7 o'clock. It finished at about 11:30.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's what the committee calls housekeeping. So where they deal with their own planning. So a big thing that came out of that, the speakers granted them an extension of a month. So their deadline was the end of this month. Obviously, they're not going to complete their work by then. So they can complete finalize their report by the 28th of November. And then they were also discussing the further witnesses. So the evidence leaders already compiled affidavits and set down dates for specific witnesses, including, which I think is going to be really important, PKTT.
Yeah.
He's going to be the next one at the end of next week. National Director of Public Prosecution, Shamila Batoy, and IDAC head and Andrea Johnson, and IGI Imtiaz Fasel. While that committee was sitting, we heard that President Ramaphosa has suspended him because of a Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence investigation into him, also flowing from Mkhwanazi.
Yes.
That committee meets in secret, so we don't know the particulars about that.
Which kind of mirrors what's been happening now at Madlanga with the request for certain witnesses to be heard in camera, etc. And then us as the media have pushed back in that regard. It's been a bit difficult to try and follow.
Yeah. We won't succeed in pushing back against the JCSI. It's legalized that they meet in secret unless there's a good reason not to, which there won't be in this case. We can argue, but we won't succeed. Also, if members of that committee leak information, they'll be criminally liable. They could end up in jail.
We're going to have a busy committee over the next couple of weeks.
Yes. So then the MP started proposing names for further witnesses. I got the impression some of them were just mentioning every name they've ever heard, including Jacob Zuma, basically all the former presidents, Thabo Mbeki, Kgalema Motlanthe. So the ANC pushed, not only the ANC, but several parties pushed back against that because why? They have a point. Then Julius Malema, he proposed that they invite Kat Matlala for obvious reasons, because he's the guy in the middle of everything.
How would that work?
I'm not sure, because I can't recall an instance where somebody who's currently in jail awaiting his trial appeared before Parliament. So,
and I wonder if he agreed to that, because how would that impact his potential criminal case, etc.?
Exactly. Well, I mean, that criminal case doesn't really relate to what the committee is investigating.
Oh, yes, good point. Good point.
So they'll get around that.
Just to add the context for those who perhaps don't remember, Vusi Kat Matlala is currently behind bars in connection with the failed hit on his former lover, actress Tobogo Tobojane, and not the alleged criminal rot that's got to do with this tender that he got within the SAPS. I think sometimes people forget that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's important. And also, he's not, he hasn't been sentenced. His bail has been denied.
Yes.
Also, somebody who they will call is Brown Mogotsi, also for obvious reasons, another one of the key figures in this whole intrigue. Malema proposed Matlala and everybody agreed for obvious reasons. I'm not sure about how it's going to work. That's something to figure out later.
But he was a bit apprehensive about another particular witness, which is the Crime Intelligence Major General Feroz Khan, right?
Yes.
Why?
Well, he said it's not necessary to call him because he was mentioned, but is it really necessary to call him, he asked. Now, as it turned out, and Malema didn't mention this, but, I have a long memory. 2 years ago when they had their birthday, like big party, everything, a certain Mr. Khan, well, General Khan, appeared at their birthday party. And it raised serious questions. What's a crime intelligence guy doing at the political party's party? So he was like really apprehensive about this guy coming to the committee.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, it's weird that none of the other MPs also raised, but why are you saying this? Because this guy came to your party. But there's a lot of people who like the sound of their own voices in that committee. So things carries on and there was also like a big shouting match between Malema and David Skosana where they were just yelling at each other for a few minutes. This is like at 11 o'clock at night, so...
These are elected lawmakers, everybody. They get nice salaries and they were elected to be there to represent you.
We are led. In any case, so it was annoying, also because I can't see how the committee is going to deal with all these witnesses in the limited time frame.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and also they, sooner or later they're going to have to bring everything they hear together, and come up with a report that first of all answers a whole range of questions and also come with proposals how to fix it.
And I find it fascinating that, and I don't know if I'm missing a beat here, but I'm struggling to understand why Mchunu came to Parliament first as opposed to going to Madlanga.
I think that is just scheduling. I don't think there's, because it's too parallel. Like the MPs are going to get really upset if you say you must go to the Madlanga first,
Right.
So there's not really a reason why I should go first to either one.
Yeah.
It's just a scheduling issue, I think.
Jan, we're going to break soon, and you need to get back to the commission. I also need to start following it. And just very quickly, for those who perhaps missed, Shadrach Sabir, the suspended National Deputy Top Cops testimony before Parliament earlier in the week. Just one thing that stuck out to you like a sore thumb?
Well, okay, so he's like the head of detectives, basically. He's the Deputy National Commissioner in charge of detective services. Before that, he was head of Organised Crime Unit. He was head of Organised Crime Unit. So MPs asked him, like, what did you know about Kat Matlala? And he said he didn't. Until the guy came to his office to complain about that contract. So, like, he's the head of detective services and he doesn't know about one of the biggest alleged criminals in the country, which was really concerning. And
we're actually starting to learn now how long of a criminal history the Kat has, right?
It goes back like 25 years.
That's crazy.
And these cases were just like struck off the roll.
I mean, it's from petty theft all the way up to the major crimes, right?
It's diverse, allegedly. So that was the thing that struck me most about Sabia, is like I just didn't know.
You're listening to the latest edition of The Lead on News 24 with Graeme Raubenheimer. If you've got an opinion on what you've heard so far, drop us a short voice note on our WhatsApp hotline. That's 072 562 3179.
Welcome back, Lead listeners. Thanks for being patient. We took a break around the same time that Parliament did in regards to Mchunu's testimony thus far. We just wanted to give it a little bit more time until we can get to the meat of what the now suspended police minister's testifying towards. And Jan Gerber joins me back in studios now. Mchunu essentially admitted, Jan, that the SAPS does not have what it takes to tackle gangsterism. What an admission. It's kind of in line with his current acting replacement, who's also pretty much said the same thing.
Well, I mean, his argument is that the type of resources they use for the political killings task team should be used for gangs in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, etc. And that it's something he's actually hammering on, is this the discrepancy between you have the specialized unit for politicians, while ordinary people don't get that.
Right.
So it's quite a compelling argument, actually, because why should politicians get special treatment? That's the the nub of the question, really.
Right, because, his argument, and they touched a little bit on this, is that, the murder rate or serious crime rate for the rest of the country is going up at the same time. So how can you justify the resources spent on one particular unit when it's only isolated to one province, right? That's the argument.
Yeah.
He faced quite a bit of questioning, Mchunu, thus far about this SAP's organizational structure, right?
Yeah, it's been a very long discussion about something that's actually quite simple. First off, about whether Masemola and Mkhwanazi knew about the disbandment of the PKTT. They testified that they didn't. It came out of the blue. So Mchunu's argument is that this discussion about changing the structure has been going on for years, since 2019 actually, and that the plan they adopted once the new administration came into power last year meant that as effect of that the PKTT would have to be disbanded.
And that it was constantly under review, and there's this mention of this 1st of November 2024 meeting.
Yeah, that's key, because Masemola's testimony was that it never was like a discussion about it. And then Sibia, in his statement to the committee, he said there wasn't a discussion about it, but then when he testified, he said there was a meeting in November where it was discussed.
Although Mchunu has, just to add, although he has sort of admitted that it wasn't a massive discussion about the unit. It was mentioned, though.
It wasn't focused on the PKTT. It was on the organizational structure. So other units and other matters as well. So in a way, it does substantiate Sibia, who was knocked heavily about that discrepancy. So so I think the purpose of explaining that is again to show that it didn't come out of the blue. Right. And that there was a rationale about behind disbanding the PKTT, and that it's not for an ulterior purpose.
But getting hold of the minutes is difficult.
Yeah, that's I requested the minutes for 3 meetings in November from the National Police Office, the head office, I assume. They only got the one for the 1st of November meeting, and according to Mchunu, there was another meeting on 22 November, and those minutes haven't been found.
So all in all, Mchunu is basically emphatic, saying the writing's been on the wall for a really long time. SAPS was going through a shake-up. These players, Mkhwanazi et al., cannot be surprised, because although there wasn't a major one standalone meeting about the PKTT, it was under review, so to speak.
Yeah, and on a constant review, and something that actually should have been done more regularly since 2022. He said there wasn't a regular review of whether this unit needs to exist. So that's the nub of the news testimony, and that's basically the important stuff. That's been under review for a while.
Some of the people, News 24 cast of thousands, our listeners, our readers, have been commenting on the YouTube channel of the live proceedings in Parliament, in the live chat, commenting, feeling as if the questioning and the evidence, or at least the narrative that Mchunu is trying to get across, has been tedious for the layperson to really understand. People are quite frustrated. They want him to get to the point.
Yeah, I mean, also the way he speaks is a bit... He likes to beat around the bush. He will interrupt himself. It's also feeding our life. It's hard work to keep track of what he's saying, and it is the boring testimony given all the allegations flowing around. I mean, people want to know about, did he know Kat Matlala? They want to know that stuff. Well, this is very technical, organizational stuff, but it is important. It is, unfortunately.
Yes, it's super important. And the main reason, Mchunu, and you've so excellently put this in the News 24 live blog with your commentary, Jan, which I so love following, is that Mchunu essentially believes that because the SAP's resources were diverted, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, according to Jean Redpath, that is senior UWC researcher, some 30 vehicles went to the unit itself. And this diversion of resources and the diversion of multi-millions is what Mchunu believes is justified enough to go, hey, I don't think that this unit, restricted to one province, given the budget that we're currently contesting with, is justified, basically.
Yes, again, speaks to that issue of why are we putting all those resources into a small group of people. You actually use that term, small group of people, the politicians, councillors, while the general public doesn't get that level of service. He actually said they use specialized policing for that task team, but the rest people get traditional policing, whatever that may be.
Right. Which is in contrary to this theory put forward by Mkhwanazi, etc., that, you know, the disbandment letter was as a result of shielding the criminal cartel, right? So we're really getting into he said, she said. What is the ultimate view? And I don't know if the devils are going to be in the detail here.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. But from the stuff I've heard in this committee and from the Mdlanga Commission, I haven't found a direct tie between Mchunu and the cartel.
Yeah. Look, the Brown Mahotsi is going to come up when MP is going to get their chance to question, right? And that's going to be the alleged linkage, right?
Yeah, but I'm sure that's going to come up in his side of the story as well. I mean, it should be. You can't ignore that. You'll have to get ahead of that one.
Mchunu got a little irritated now because they're like, let's go to a comfort break. And I understood it as that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, no, I really want to get my side of the story across because Mkhwanazi's had a lot to say recently, and now it's my turn. And then Malema actually did like a point of order.
Yeah, so he explained that it's just like a short break. They're going to continue, I'm not sure until when today, but we're not going home anytime soon yet.
It looks like 1 o'clock in the morning was the joke by one of the MPs now.
Well, it's not a joke coming from this committee because it has not 1 o'clock, but close. But I mean, they set aside tomorrow for Mr. Ornstein to question Mchunu as well. So I don't think it will be that late. But I don't think we'll be going home anytime soon.
And then the MP's questions will be for early next week, right?
Yes, that will be next week, yes.
Sure. News 24 readers, in the meantime, can keep following you on the live blog, right?
Yes, now I'll be going.
Fantastic. Jan, thank you so much for your time on The Lead. I really appreciate it. Still lots to come, folks.
Looking for a smarter weekend scroll? The Weekender is your ultimate guide to bold stories, sharp opinion, and a fresh lens on life in Mzansi. From exclusive interviews and powerful essays to wine picks, playlists, and pop culture gems, it's your perfect weekend read all in one place, landing every Saturday on News 24. And finally,
ending off today with On This Day in History, the 16th of October 1988. But did you know that on this very day, ANC officials met with their South African rugby counterparts in Harare, Zimbabwe, and agreed to help facilitate South Africa's return to international rugby, but on one key condition. The ANC at the time insisted that South African rugby unite under a single non-racial governing body before it could be readmitted to global competition. South Africa had been banned, of course, from the Olympics and other international sports since 1964 due to apartheid. Attended by ANC representatives, the Harare meeting, including South African Rugby Board President Dani Craven and members of the non-racial SA Rugby Union, laid the groundwork for change in the sport as we know it. Just 7 years later, in 1995, of course, a democratic South Africa hosted and won the Rugby World Cup for the very first time. It's, of course, a moment that symbolized unity and transformation both on and off the field. Of course, at that point, rugby had yet to be fully transformed as we know it today. I was just 5 years old at the time, old enough to remember just how much my dad enjoyed that very day. Thanks so much for a bumper Newsweek. Before you know it, you open your eyes and it's already Friday. If you'd like to advertise on this very show, we're inviting sponsors, businesses big or small, to get in on the action now. We're currently on around nearly 720,000 listens of The Lead, and that's just since March this year. And of course, the show goes out Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. on the front page of News 24 to millions of readers across the country. So drop us a mail, thelead@24.com. Hit like, follow, and subscribe on all the various platforms, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. This way, you'll be notified of when the show drops exactly, and you'll get push notifications in that regard. You can also sign up to the News 24 app and become a subscriber. It's really cheap as chips, and you're getting some of the best journalism that this country's ever seen. Well, until Monday's show, have a fantastic weekend. It's, in actual fact, my bachelor's party, so I'll see you on the other side of that. My name's Graeme Raubenheimer, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have The Lead.